And this is where MAGA comes to talk. So you may have seen the announcement. President Trump announced that he just called off the largest airstrike that was against Iran yet, and he compared it to the bombings of the Second World War with Germany. And I want to talk a little bit about why the president made that decision. All right, I am going to engage dark MAGA mode. We're engaged. Welcome, everyone. If you're new, this is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure that you subscribe. So, a lot of you out there that just aren't old enough to have the proper perspective as to what's going on with Iran in the United States over these years. Well, do some Googling, get on your Chat GPT, and catch up, okay? But for nearly 50 years, Iran has been killing Americans, and of course, the highlight of their destruction was during the Iraq War, and the Iranians were behind the entire IED and the insurgency. And that killed God knows how many Americans, right? Just god awful. But here we are. So why didn't President Trump unleash a World War II-like bombing campaign on Iran? And I think the answer is pretty simple, right? Now the point may come where he has to do that, but he wants to put it off for as long as possible. And like everything else President Trump does, he has incredibly good reasons for doing it. I'm trying to decide which way I am going to take. All right, dark MAGA mode engaged. Once President Trump bombs Iran out of the modern world, right, and there's a complete collapse, what happens then is we become responsible for the country. The last thing we want to do is have to occupy Iran, right? If it has to be done, President Trump will do it. But we don't want to send in an occupying military force inside Iran. That's just setting us up for years, if not decades, of a forever guerrilla war, right? We had the insurgency in Iraq, Vietnam, and certainly you don't want something like that going on in Iran. So if he does a massive bombing campaign, that means Iran is ours. Like look at Venezuela. Venezuela, a few things about Venezuela that are different. One in particular, and the biggest one is this, is that there was a functioning, you could question the legitimacy or not of the vice president who she has around, but there was a functioning government / infrastructure in Venezuela. So simply removing the psychotic dictator Maduro and his lunatic wife, and the wife was probably running Venezuela more than Maduro himself. President Trump told the vice president and their military leaders and whoever was left in their government that, hey, you either go along or that's it. And they're not crazy people like the Iranians. So they capitulated. The Iranians are crazy people, right? Yeah, you can run Chelsea Clinton in 2028. Yeah, run Chelsea Clinton, who's never had a job. That's a great idea. I would say that may be your best pick. Never had a job, never done anything. And if you've ever heard her really speak, she's stupid. She's like AOC dumb. And in many ways, she's worse because she thinks she's brilliant. Chelsea Clinton. Yeah, run her. That's awesome. Yeah, her and Kamala can be running mates. I love it. Great. But we don't have a sane group inside Iran. So, in Venezuela, We're operating in Venezuela. We have CIA people there. We have State Department people there. We have people from the different oil companies there. I'm sure we have military personnel there. And we have people in Venezuela that are working with the Venezuelan government to get that country back on track. But in Iran, you have a lunatic, religious fanatic group of people, and there's nothing you can ever do that's going to get them to do the right thing. Right? And also in Venezuela, no question about it, we had a population that wanted to stand up against the Maduro regime, mainly because they were starving to death over there. In Iran, we really don't have that. They're just too fanatical. And now again, President Trump may have to do this at some point, but if President Trump goes in and obliterates everything like Dresden, if you're not familiar with the firebombing of Dresden, I mean, we firebombed Dresden for 3 nights in the Second World War. The United States and Britain just devastated the city, and killed. The estimates they give are 25,000, mostly civilians. And if you look, we're still occupying Germany and Japan 80 years later. 80 years later. Next month, September, is the 80th anniversary of the surrender of Japan. We still have military in Japan and in Germany. We don't want to do that in Iran. What President Trump's hoping to do with Iran is totally devastate whatever they have, government-wise, military-wise, bankrupt their country, and take them back into a third world status. Where they can never be a player again. Right? Let the religious fanatics continue to run it because it looks like they're so embedded. But wipe them out to the point where they have no ability to bully the region, which is what they've been doing. Iran has been bullying the entire Middle East for all these decades. And what I was talking about on Friday, and this is true, what they're transforming into is, a few months ago, Iran was a military power. And they're being devastated by the United States and Israel into becoming basically like the Somali pirates. I don't mean the Somali pirates of Minneapolis with Medicaid fraud. I mean the Somali pirates that would hijack cargo ships, like in Captain Phillips, right, with Tom Hanks. And they're going to continue to be a pest for however long. And that's them being a pest with some speedboats causing some problems from time to time, which we'll be able to take care of, is much better than occupying the country. The last thing you want to do is occupy a country. It never works out well. If you're new to my channel, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Right now we are in dark MAGA mode. But the thing is with President Trump, why am I out and what am I up to? None of your business. How about that? I have to be somewhere early this morning, and And I'm going somewhere, which is kind of sketchy place to be at this hour of the morning, but I'm going somewhere to make a YouTube video for my other YouTube channel, which I probably shouldn't be doing at this hour, but I'm going to do it anyway. But I'm not going to tell you where until after. President Trump's very smart. You got to trust in Trump. He understands what he's doing. And so far as the military operation against Iran and future military plans and why we don't want to occupy them and all of this, President Trump has, as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, probably the most brilliant mind to run the Joint Chiefs of Staff ever, General Kane. Remember, General Kane is the guy that President Trump talked about in his stump speech for years about how he destroyed ISIS in just a couple of weeks. That whole story about how they wouldn't let him do it and he knew how to do it. Believe me, General Kane knows exactly what he's doing, how to do it, and how to do it with minimal loss of American life. And, you know, regardless of your position on the military operation in Iran, it's happening, right? Yep, General Raisin King, that's right. I mean, the time to debate whether or not the campaign should happen is over. So those of you that are debating that, I mean, catch up. You know, you're 5-6 months ago, right? It's happening. It's there. We got to talk about, and you got to focus in on what's going on now. I supported it from the day one. I mean, the Iranians have just been causing trouble for 50 years, and it's about time they're put in their place. But you got a country that for 50 years has built up and established a military and a psychotic force. You know, I was watching an interview this morning when I was getting ready with this defector from North Korea. And this guy, when he was in North Korea, he was a soldier who was in a special unit that guarded Kim Jong-un at his private home where he went with his pleasure squad and everything. And he was talking about how fanatical that he was and the guys were trained, that they were trained. Now, he was assigned to Kim Jong-un's private residence where he brought the pleasure squad and all that. And he said, we were trained that even if Kim Jong-un wasn't there, we were to die to protect that house, even if it was empty. It was so fanatical, right? Because he had been there. And he went through a lot of details on that, which aren't important right now. Well, that's how a lot of these IRGC people are. They are so fanatical, they'll never wake up. You'll never be able to wake them up. You'll never be able to alert them. Nothing. Just the way it is. If you're new to my channel, make sure that you subscribe. So let me know what you think in the chat and in the comments if you're not watching live. This military strategy that General Kane obviously is the master of, that President Trump's using against Iran, is just to bomb them but leave an infrastructure in place. Is that better than bombing everything and then having to occupy the country? If you wipe out everything, we've got to go in and run the country. You don't want to do that. Now, of course, the left and the Never Trumpers want to do that for a couple of reasons. One, they want to do the opposite of whatever President Trump is doing. That's one, right? And that's a big one. And really, the Never Trumpers and the left also want to have as much American loss of life as possible, as many casualties as they can, because that hurts Trump, because they're sick people. And this whole military operation has been run with such a minimum number of casualties going up against a country that had a pretty established and strong military. Who would have thought it was possible? Yeah, so I've got to be somewhere early this morning. I'll probably live stream when I'm done, and I'll tell you where, but I don't want to say now. So I'm leaving early. I'm going somewhere else undisclosed to make a video for my other YouTube channel. So I left about an hour earlier than I had to, so I could make the YouTube video. Well, if I don't have anywhere to go, I'm sure driving pretty far. My problem is I have too many places to go, more than I can go. But I think what Trump's doing is the best. You know, and it's also really unfortunate that, you know, because people have been telling us for years that, oh, the people of Iran, they're with us and all this stuff. And I've always been suspect of that. You know, the people of Iran have had 50 years of brainwashing. I don't know why people assume they want us to come in and liberate them, you know. And one thing that we have not seen at all, I mean at all, is any type of resistance. Now, they have killed a lot of people, no doubt about it. Tens of thousands of Iranians have been killed in uprisings. But it would seem that the Iranians are just too terrified to stand up and have a resistance. And I can understand that. I'm not blaming them for it, right? Trying to decide which exit to take. There's 3 exits I can take to the place I'm going. And I'm just trying to decide which one will take me to the place that I want to be the easy. I think I know which one. I know what to do. I mean, I would not have any problem if President Trump bombed their power plants and water treatment plants and everything else. But why do we want to take over the country? Why would we want to go in and have to rebuild it? Why would we want to go in and occupy it? We don't want to occupy it. What we want to do is degrade Iran and isolate them. You know, they're going to face, for the very first time, on top of the military action, they're dealing with a true embargo, which they've never had before. There's always been embargoes against Iran since the Islamic Republic took over, but they haven't really been real, not like this. And their economy is in shambles. That can only last so long. You know, when the people inside the country have no money, no food, can't afford anything, that'll degrade them a lot too. So what Trump is doing is just degrading them and taking them back from, I mean, I wouldn't call Iran even at their peak before all this. I wouldn't call them a superpower like the United States. We're the only superpower in the world, the United States. But in the Middle East, they were a superpower in a way because they were kind of modern. They had a pretty strong military. Remember, they had 2 militaries. They had the regular Army and Air Force and all of that. Plus, the IRGC has their own Army and Air Force, and they had a Navy. And no one would stand up to them. And they were bullying everyone. Plus, they had their Islamic terror network, which obviously they no longer have. So degrading them back into an insignificant country seems to be pretty smart to me. Yep. Now, if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe, guys. President Trump and General Kane and Pete Hegseth know exactly what they are doing. You know, this cabinet of President Trump's is probably the most brilliant presidential cabinet, and they're not a bunch of hacks like these others. If President Trump wanted to, he could invade Iran, but be massive loss of life on both sides. Why do that if you don't have to? You know, we've lost a handful of service personnel, and it's sad. We don't want to lose anyone. But considering how large of a combat operation this is, American losses have been very small. You know, we haven't seen any estimates on Iranian losses. They've had to be massive. The media aren't interested in reporting that. The Iranian losses have to be humongous. All right. I got to make sure I take the right exit. If I miss my exit here, won't be the end of the world, but I don't want to miss it. Welcome. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. My name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. And if you missed my podcast last night about Judge Janine, make sure you watch that after you're done watching this video. Judge Janine betrayed Trump big time. I covered the whole thing. I mean, I'm in shock. So check that out. This is not a good time to be on the road. There's too many drunks out here at this hour, but you know, whatever. I'll just keep my distance from other cars as much as possible. It's called defensive driving. Well, it is 3:43 a.m. here, East Coast Mar-a-Lago time. I have to be somewhere in about 90 minutes. So I'm going somewhere else, which is a cool place, but this is not a great time to. I should not be going there at this hour of the morning, really, honestly. But I'm going to. The very fact that my conscience is telling me I shouldn't do it tells me even more I shouldn't do it. All right, let me see. I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to park where I'm going. That's the big problem. I left a little late. All right, now I got another exit. I want to make sure I get in the right one. Starbucks is not open at this hour. I wish they were. Are you kidding? So that's what President Trump's doing with Iran. You, Trump is so smart. If any other president were in office right now, they would have done a full-scale invasion of Iran. That's the last thing you want to do. Unless it's absolutely necessary. But it doesn't look like it is right now. Right? So why go and do something that's not absolutely necessary? Exactly. Especially putting American men and women's lives on the line. This campaign against Iran is probably one of the most brilliant military campaigns and strategies ever waged, because it takes patience. I've been reading this book on D-Day, the D-Day book by Stephen A. Ambrose, and I don't have time to just read and read and read. I'm on chapter 6, but I was reading in chapter 5 in that book. They're talking about this incredible debate that was going on between the Air Force generals and the Army generals. Hold on a second here. I'm going to make sure I take the right exit. Yes. And this was before D-Day. This is when the D-Day planning was going on. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. Okay. Yes. And the Air Force was telling Eisenhower that he wasn't patient, that he should hold off on the D-Day invasion, and they should bomb the German oil refineries and oil fields in all of this. And Eisenhower said no. They have so much gasoline stockpiled, it could last them months, maybe a year. And the Air Force is telling Eisenhower, yeah, but we wouldn't have our guys there fighting. We didn't have women in combat back then. But we won't have our guys there fighting. And he said, no, we got to stop it. We got to go in. We got to go in. And, you got to think, how many Allied deaths occurred in the Second World War because Eisenhower and other leaders just were not patient, right? And President Trump is patient. When you have someone in command like President Trump and General Kane and Pete Hegseth that are patient because they want to save American lives, that's the kind of leadership you want of a country. Not someone who's not patient, who can't wait a few months or a year and go in and because they need some massive victory right now and send in a big invasion force and get a lot of Americans killed. That's why reading's so important. So not enough people read these days. You read, you get some information, you get some perspective, knowledge, create more neural pathways in your brain. Yeah, where like I said, I got to be somewhere in just over an hour. So I thought, well, let me leave early. I'm going to go make a vlog in this particular, I don't want to say where I'm going, in this particular place for my other channel. And it's really, I'm a little late. I would have liked to have left early, but I was thinking, I don't know. It's kind of a sketch area at this hour of the morning. I really probably shouldn't do it, but I am going to do it. So, well, at least I'm going to go there and I'll scope it out. I may not even be able to park at this hour of the morning. So, but it's not out of the way to where I have to be in an hour. If I can get parking and I can get it quickly, I'll do it. But actually came to where I'm going. I came here about a year ago to make a vlog at the around this time, and the people around were so scary. I'm like, there's no freaking way. Welcome everyone. Welcome. Yeah, if you're just joining the streams, go to the beginning, and I detailed what the president's strategy is right now in Iran and why he called off this massive air campaign. I mean, he said that it was an air campaign that has not been seen since the Second World War. And that's saying a lot because we had a massive bombing campaign in Iraq in 91 and then in Operation Iraqi Freedom. So that's something. I wish I could show you guys where I'm at, because where I'm at is beautiful. Even in the dark, it's beautiful where I'm at. That's why I'm going here to make a video. All right, almost there. Yep, already weirdos around. Well, there's most definitely a place to park. Question is, do I want to park here? Oh my goodness, this is really sketchy. Hey, listen, gotta take a risk to make the video interesting, right? It'll be on my other YouTube channel if I deem it safe enough to get out of the car. That's a big if right now. Oh, this guy in front of me just drove over the curb. I don't know if he's drunk or what, but that was pretty rough. I mean, he just drove right over that curb, man. That was brutal. And he parked. Okay. He might have just been lost. Okay. I can't believe how many people are here. at this hour of the morning. I could smell, I just got the smell of marijuana. I can't believe, I mean, you know, this is a very public place. People just sitting out here smoking weed. Where are the, that just tells you the kind of area I'm at, where they feel comfortable smoking weed out in the open here. They're not afraid of the cops. Yeah, that's the weed car I just drove by. Oh my goodness. No, it's yeah, it's the living dead is what it is. Okay. I don't know about this. Hold on a second here. I got to make a decision. I don't know about this. Hold on. I'll be right back. I'm just going to mute. Ah, no way. No way. No, just it's not scared. It's called being smart. Well, no, I am. Oh, okay. No, this is cool. Okay, so I'm gonna go. I've got my vlogging gear all ready to go. So I will be back later and make sure that you subscribe if you're new. My name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. I'll see you in just a bit. Take care, guys.